and this is My Slovak Experience.
Hello everyone, this is My Slovak Experience podcast, and today I bring another continent into the picture with Mazvi from Zimbabwe. Mazvi first came to Slovakia to work for the British Chamber of Commerce in 2010. She studied in South Africa and landed in Slovakia because of a job opportunity and also to see something else about the world. I was happy to learn that she considers Slovakia her second home now. She enjoys the experience, her job, and connections. But there is also something missing, a particular vibe, some of the taste, something of the people perhaps. Unsurprisingly, Slovakia doesn't match her home country. Listen to our talk to hear more from her, and please welcome Mazvi. Enjoy! I'm here with Mazvi Serina Musariri.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Welcome to My Slovak Experience, and thank you a lot for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And it's actually, I always get more and more excited about discovering that in Slovakia there are so many different countries and cultures and backgrounds. It's cool. The more I started this project of this podcast, the more I actually start seeing as well the rich variety, right? Mm-hmm. But in many cases, it's unknown because you don't know actually when you see someone, you don't know, you might see, we of course stereotypize, right? We try to just locate you in some areas of the world, but we actually not know about your story. So that's actually my opportunity to hear your story and share it.
Okay.
So you are from, originally from what country?
Zimbabwe.
From Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And did you live in Zimbabwe before coming to Slovakia?
I lived in Cape Town, South Africa before coming to Slovakia.
Okay.
Yeah. I was there for 4 years for university. And before that, I was in Zimbabwe.
Okay. So that basically, so Cape Town is, how far is from Zimbabwe, Cape Town?
It is a 4-hour flight.
Okay.
Yeah. So, because just going from Johannesburg.
So you cannot drive from there, or you can?
Well, you can. It'll just take a very long time. So, yeah.
Okay, interesting. So, and in this time, so you were born in what? Let's also start from the city or the place where you are from. Okay. So let's share with folks a new place that perhaps they don't know it exists.
Okay, well, I am from Harare, which is the capital of Zimbabwe. Okay. Also known as the Sunshine City.
Oh.
So that is where I was born and raised, and went from nursery school, primary school to high school, and then I left for university.
Okay, to study in South Africa.
Yeah.
Cool. And then at one point of your story, you are in Slovakia, right? And it sounds a bit weird, right? To say, okay, you are Slovakia is, I guess, many people in South Africa don't even know about Slovakia in itself, right?
I think they do. I mean, at least I speak about people in Zimbabwe, definitely know Slovakia.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe some people still refer to it as Czechoslovakia.
Okay. And that's also what I mean, right? 20 years
so
ago something changed and we didn't get updated some of the mental charts.
Exactly. I mean, we learned European history as well, so it is a country that people know, but maybe not so well. So, yeah.
So tell me what brought you here?
Well, it was never part of the plan. I never honestly imagined myself in Slovakia. Okay. After university, I was looking for jobs. In fact, it wasn't after university. It was in my final year of my postgrad. And a friend of mine was working in Nairobi. Okay. We had done undergrad together, and she had gone there through a program called ASEC. So I was having trouble finding a job in South Africa. It's a little bit difficult as a foreigner to find a job there if you don't have a specialized skill. So I studied organizational psychology, which is not a specialized skill. So she told me, well, look, Mazvi, I applied for an internship with ASEC, and I think there's many good opportunities there. Try it out. So I was like, okay, why not? I'm not going to lose out by trying. So I signed up and I slowly started applying for jobs. And then I came across a job that was interesting to me. It was for the British Chamber of Commerce, based here in Bratislava. So honestly, the location wasn't, I would say, something that was really important for me at the time. I just saw this job and I was like, okay, this job looks pretty cool. So let me apply and we will see what happens. So I applied for the job. I got the job. And it happened to be in Bratislava, so I moved.
And what was the information you had about Bratislava when you applied? Or
I
don't know, when you told it to family and friends, like, I'm going to Bratislava, the answer was like, okay, is it what?
No, I mean, to this day, some people still can't get over the fact that I moved here. I've actually had quite a lot of friends and family come visit me here, actually. Again, this is one of those things of stereotypes, or you just kind of know it from maybe one place or reference, which is not true or correct. So even for myself, I was thinking, like, for 2 days, Bratislava, like, it sounds so familiar. Where do I know this name from? Where do I know this name from? And it was after about 2 days, I was like, oh my goodness, the movie Hostel.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, that's totally not
I mean, exactly. Outside of history, right? That's the second place that I've heard of Bratislava.
Yeah.
So I know Slovaks do not appreciate that movie at all. So I was like, well, look, especially as a person coming from an African country where we are stereotyped a lot, especially in media, they always only show the bad sides or the poor sides, and they, selectively leave out all the beautiful places that are in African countries. So I was like, you know what, let me actually actively do some research and see what is this country like. So I went, on Google. I bought a book about Slovakia, and I was like, well, this is a normal place, like anywhere else, And the key things for me when I'm moving anywhere, I'm looking at what is the political situation like? Is it going to break into a civil war anytime soon? Is it a place that's very prone to natural disasters? Okay. I'm not trying to get caught up in a tsunami or earthquake. Not sure I could handle that. And thirdly, is it a place that is known for being racist? So these are the things I consider when I'm looking at a country or a place I'm going to move to, or even just
and
visit.
And this is also because of, good potential, good living, right? So like, if one of these three things is not checked, then you have some possibility of trouble at one point. Right?
Exactly. So that was it. I said the research. I came here. I mean, of course, with a lot of people, that was their reaction. Like, are you sure you want to go there? What if you get kidnapped and get sold into a sex slave? Really, was some of the reactions. But again, it's about not having enough information on a place. So yeah,
and it's so sad that actually when we don't know much, the things that usually we our mind goes to are the negativity, right? It's like always either fears, or it's never like what if I just become the most happy person in the world, right? It's never like that. It's always like what happens, how, and that's but that's human, so much human. So that's what happened. And so about those 3 checkpoints, what did you find out?
Well, I think not only in Slovakia, but there is, can't really find the right word, but people are not very friendly towards gypsies.
Okay.
But towards black people as a whole, I would say it's a little bit different for black women and for black men. I tend to see that black men maybe have a bit more challenges than the black women here. But all in all, in my experience, here in Bratislava, I would say that I have had maybe only 2 negative experiences. A lot of the times it's curiosity. It was very interesting for me when I moved here because I'd never been in a place where people don't really know a race outside of their own.
Oh, it's that there are not so many colors in Slovakia. That's true.
You know, and I've been here in May, it'll be 9 years. So Bratislava has really changed a lot since 2010 in terms of the infrastructure and the people. And, you know, because back home, we are a variety of races there. You have blacks, whites, Indians, you know, Chinese. So for me growing up, I was very aware of other races. So coming here, I could go for, honestly, 3 to 4 months without seeing another black person. And it was just, I didn't feel uncomfortable, I would say. It was just very different. And usually if I did see another black person, it was usually somebody from the UK just here for the weekend. So it was like that. And sometimes I had people touching me. That was uncomfortable. Really, I would have people coming to touch me. One day, this little boy ran across the street, just touched me and ran back. I don't know what he was expecting to happen, like, the color's not going to come off. That's just the color that I am, you know. But it was very different. It was very different.
So you have even actually a more important role here to, you know, particularly not only to kids, but people that are, you know, growing up in a, you know, kind of monochromatic environment only, to, you know, learn more, and definitely they can learn a lot more from you, right? So it's a interesting responsibility as well. Like you can change the sake of everybody else that is coming after you as well.
Well, I've never looked at it as a responsibility, I must say. But yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely been an experience. It definitely has been. So yeah.
So and this is perhaps something that people don't. We don't think about it so much, right? But putting in the shoes of others, right? So your position to, you know, to feel that there are not so many people looking alike you in this case. Is it something that is, how do you live with that? Like in normal days, you just feel more eyes on you or something like that, or you just don't care anymore? How this?
Well, definitely in the beginning, I could walk into a restaurant and no joke, everyone would just stop and stare. It was, as I said, in the beginning, it was really uncomfortable, you know, and very noticeable. But as time went by, you know, maybe people still do look, but I don't notice it anymore. I don't notice it anymore, yes. And of course, nowadays, there's a whole lot more, you know, a lot more foreigners, a lot more different races here. So it's not such a shocker, you know, anymore. But yeah.
And but tell me also, how long have you been here? Like, when did you come? What is the
May 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
Directly in the embassy. So that was
the British Chamber of Commerce.
The British Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I was there for 1 year.
And those, like, if you can go back into the first year or the first time you get to Bratislava, what do you remember from that time?
Well, I remember when I arrived at the airport, and then that was the old airport. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, Mazvi, where have you come to? Because the airport, you know, it wasn't that you expect of a capital city, right? So I was really like, oh my goodness, where are you? Where have you landed? But I had, with ASEC, it was nice, you know, you had buddies, so there was someone there waiting for me. There were also other people from different countries, like we were like the same year, friends from Costa Rica, Australia, Germany, Poland. So I already had like a community before I came, which was really nice. So I would say I didn't really my experience maybe is different to other people who come for the first time. So as I said, I already kind of had like a group of friends. I had somebody to show me around, to help me out, somewhere to stay. I didn't have to look for all of these things like by myself or through Facebook or something.
Okay,
before
so you
coming.
weren't totally alone.
Yes, I wasn't alone. Everything had been arranged, so that was very, very nice. Yeah.
But you came without family or anyone, right? So
just
you. Flight direct to Bratislava.
Yeah, it was a very long flight, actually. It was from Harare to Johannesburg, Johannesburg to Paris, Paris to Prague, Prague to Bratislava.
Cool.
That was when Czech Airlines still used to fly here. So, yeah.
And now is it different if you want to go back to?
Yeah, again, it depends on the airline. If I'm flying with Ethiopian, it goes from Vienna to Addis Harare.
Okay.
If it's Emirates, it's Vienna, Dubai, Harare.
Okay.
So it just depends, yeah.
So anyway, one place you need to stop and rest.
Yeah, there's no direct.
It's never as the beginning. Cool. And what was because maybe now you are more used to it, but the first thing you noticed as coming to European capital and Slovakia such is compared to where you were living, right? What was the kind of cultural shock, or it was that just the same? It's just people just look different, but the rest is similar.
I would say for me the biggest thing I would point out is the service. You would go into, whether it's a restaurant or a post office or I don't know, a shoe shop, doesn't really matter. It's almost like people look at you like, why did you have to choose my shop? Like, why did you have to come here? I was happy just doing nothing. Now I have to actually help you out, and I just feel like there wasn't a very customer, like you say, focused mentality. It's almost like you have to beg them to spend your money in their shop.
Okay.
So I think that was kind of the biggest thing for me, that the service, the level of service, I didn't expect it to be that bad.
So you were used to better service.
Yes. Not necessarily fantastic service, but good service. Good service. So yeah.
And that's it. That's the one.
Honestly, that's the biggest thing. I mean, outside of being spot the dot here, that was really the biggest thing for me, because everything else for me, as I said, wasn't really that different. I mean, when you think about the music,
you can find whatever you want.
The music, same music I listen to. Actually, I just thought of something. Was I found Slovaks to be more, or rather say, not so outspoken.
Okay.
Yes. So, for example, like sometimes at work, when questions are asked, it would usually be a foreigner who's raising their hand or responding. With Slovaks, I didn't feel that they really would speak out. They would prefer to be quiet. It's almost like they will even avoid eye contact so that they don't feel pressured to answer the question. So that was quite different for me, because I'm a person, whether I can say it's a Zimbabwean thing, I don't know, but me personally,
you would raise the hand.
I answer, I respond, whether it's a yes or a no, or I speak up. If I like something, I say it. If I don't like it, I also say it. There was one time we actually went out with some friends, and one of them, a Slovak girl, her burger, she said it smelled funny. So I said to her, okay, did you let them know? And she's like, no, I'm just going to leave it. So I said, you're not going to say anything. You're not going to eat it, but you're still going to pay for it, even though the meat smells funny. And then another one was like, oh, Mazvi, we're not troublemakers.
Oh, yeah.
And that was very interesting for me, because I'm like, this is how you perceive that, as being a troublemaker, but you're the customer. You've come in expecting a specific service, right? You've come to a restaurant, you've ordered food, you expect to get food that you're able to eat, you're going to pay for it, but there's something wrong with this food, and you're still going to pay for it without saying anything. Like that for
And
me
you should
was
get 2 burgers then. Like, sorry for.
yeah. So that was and that's something I see quite
That's
a
true.
lot. Yeah. So yeah.
It can be. We are discussing a lot on the podcast because it's a common point, right? That came out.
Yeah.
And it can be cultural. Like but I think it's that it can be also part of the owner of the place. It can be people. Can be that you usually hire youngs and this they. If you go, one thing I notice when I go to Austria, for example, is that if you go to the shop assistant or waiters, you see people that build up their career on this particular profession, right? So they have and you don't see, so usually they're much younger in Slovakia, right? So you don't see someone that is over 50 that is being waiter for the whole life, but is doing it so well, right? That you just you are happy to go in that place. You feel good, you feel served, because that's actually a very art as well of serving, right? So
it is,
and that's one of the ideas. But I think it's a mixture of potentially everything. And did you see any improvements since the beginning?
I have seen some improvements, and I generally tend to go to the same places all the time. Once in a while, try somewhere new if it's come from a friend who's recommended the place, or if I'm feeling a little bit adventurous, because I love to cook. So I don't eat out that often. And when I do, I don't want to get upset because somebody is rude to me. I'm like, I've decided to come have a nice evening eating out, so I'd rather go somewhere where I know the service is good, the food is also good. But, for me, a lot of the times, as you said, there's a lot of reasons why maybe the service isn't good, but you can't expect something to change if you don't address the issue.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So, as I said, it's not only a matter of giving the feedback when it's bad. When I've had really great service, I would also find the manager and say, this person was fantastic. When it hasn't been good as well, I also find a manager. Sometimes they don't care, and they will, they'll give you this attitude. If you don't like it, go somewhere else. Really, that's what they say. But there are other times where it's actually made a difference. There was one cafe, it's still there, Stur, which is on Sturova.
Yeah.
And because I used to live just around the corner from it, so I used to go there often, and really the staff were really great. They were always smiling, we even became quite friendly. And then the staff changed, and there were some new people who were not so friendly. Really, it was like impossible to get a smile from them and things like that. And one evening I went in quite late, and the owner happened to be there. And I mentioned this to him.
That they were nice.
That the previous ones, I was like to him, they were always great. What happened to them? Whatever he explained, whatever happened. And then I mentioned that with these ones that are there now, they sometimes are a little bit rude. There was one time one of my sisters was around, and she didn't have a very nice experience with them either. So I mentioned that. And I told the boss that. And I can tell you, after that day, they became the friendliest people. Really, they were always smiling now. They were always nice. They were friendly. But again, because I gave the owner that feedback.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
maybe culture of feedback is anyway a good thing, right?
Yeah.
If it has a reason behind, it's not just I don't like you, right? But it's something more. Then it's always valuable. Yeah,
exactly.
We should learn to do that more often.
Yeah. So I said, if he never knew, as far as he's concerned, there's no problem. Everything is great. So I'm like, you can't. It doesn't do you any good to complain about something and not tell the person who can actually make a change.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah,
that's important. And so when you let me connect with because I'm interested a lot, right? In I'm a strong lover of taste and the gastronomic experiences. So when you definitely come from a place where I have no idea what's the food there, right?
Yeah.
And also I would like to know how you cope with that, also being here, and where I can find perhaps some taste from your land, and if it's possible here. or if you cook, or what's your experience with food in Slovakia?
Well, I do like Slovak food, not on a everyday basis, but pyrohi. I love pyrohi.
Okay.
Yeah.
That are Polish.
True as well, actually. And funny enough, I find that the Polish ones and Slovak ones taste different.
Oh yeah,
I actually prefer the Polish
I had
ones.
A Polish, guest in this Eva and Evie, and she said that I think they have also different pastry inside, like, so that's where it's very different, and she has no idea why there is no variety of pierogi as there is in Poland. But I think it's culturally based. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, there are not so many pizzas in the rest of the world because that's an Italian tradition. They just
True.
Live with that. But
yeah.
But cool. Okay. But pierogi with brinza inside, right?
With brinza or with meat, either way. Anyway, I like it.
Cool.
I like it. So, so with the food, I either every time I go home, I come with the food. Half of my luggage has food. And there's also an Indian shop in Vienna that sells a lot of food products from African countries.
Okay.
So when I run out of my stock that I came with from home, then I just go to Vienna and buy some of the things. With what you can buy in Slovakia, maybe there are certain things I can still make from home. But we can't find everything, but we can find most things and enough to still enjoy some food from home.
And what do you bring from home? What are the things you really want to
I
have with
bring peanut butter. It's the peanut butter, for example, that's sold here is different.
Okay.
My mom actually used to make peanut butter. She made the best peanut butter. So I bring that. I bring maize meal. It's like, do you know what maize is?
Yeah, it's a kind of cereal, right?
No.
It's not a cereal?
It's, okay, you know corn?
Corn, yes.
Okay. Now, maize is like a mature corn.
Oh, okay.
So when you pop corn, you get popcorn. But when you pop maize, you get something that looks different.
Okay.
It even tastes different. It's like same family, but they're cousins. Corn and maize are cousins. And with maize,
so it's not a cereal in itself, because that would be more like wheat and.
It can be used to make maybe some kinds of cereals. So, for example, with cornflakes, whether corn is used or maize is used that much, I don't know. But with maize, when you grind it, it makes a powder. So it's more coarse than flour, right? And we use that. You can make porridge with that, or you make something that we call sadza.
Okay.
It's quite a common food in many African countries, but we just have a different name for it. So it's like the starch in the meal. So instead of having rice, you would have sadza. So I bring maize meal primarily for porridge. I love porridge.
Cool.
I bring biltong. Biltong is dried meat.
Okay.
So
of what?
To try bring it a bit into context. Do you know beef jerky?
Beef? Yeah.
Okay, it's beef jerky, but 1,000 times better.
Okay.
Like, I cannot eat beef jerky. It is nowhere near the same. I tried it once. I couldn't do it. So biltong, it can be made from anything, whether it's from beef, from chicken, from game, right? So it's dried meat with spices. It's really, really, really good.
Okay. But you just eat it as it is, or you just... Yeah, it's just part of the process of additional.
Just as it is.
Oh, okay.
It's like a snack, but I can eat it like the whole day as my meal.
And of course, without mentioning any fruit and vegetable, that obviously with different sun you have different.
Well, for sure, exactly. The mangoes here and the mangoes back home, different taste. The ones back home are juicier, sweeter. So. And we have, for example, lychees. I know. I love lychees, but they are so expensive here. And I think of I guess it's an import, right? But when you think, I have one friend who has a lychee tree at home, and we just go and pick them off a tree, So for me, that's always a little bit of a battle. Even same with avocados. You know, a lot of people have avocado trees at home, or orange trees, or mango trees.
Yeah.
So sometimes
That's
for
cool.
me, also because it's imported, then the price, and I'm thinking, man, you know, for the price of one, back home, even if it's being sold, it's a whole lot
Even
less.
peanuts, I don't think people grow peanut normally here, even if they grow
I don't
potatoes.
think they
but
do.
peanuts,
My
it's,
mom used to grow peanuts.
yeah,
Yeah.
It'd be an easy thing to do, right? It's
Yeah.
but
So, yeah.
that's very interesting. Cool. And so that's all this product help you to cook as well at home, and what could be a typical meal from?
It's, I actually used to host events here
Okay.
where it was every 2 months. It was called Taste Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I did it for about a year and a half, I think. So every time it would be a different African country. So people tried food from Nigeria, from Angola, from Zimbabwe, from Kenya, and a few other countries. So my personal favorite from Zimbabwe is rice with peanut butter.
Okay.
I
That's a good
absolutely love that.
Oh, yeah.
I could eat that all the time. So you could have that with, and I love chicken feet.
Boiled
I
or
really
baked?
love chicken feet, and even like my sisters don't understand me, but I'm like, you know what, that's all right, because that means more for me.
But this
right?
is like baked.
Like you
product, or
boil
it's
them,
crispy?
and then you can fry them.
Okay.
You know, so
They're like,
yeah.
but it's bony. No, it's not bony.
Yeah, that's what people say. What is
It's
there to
crunchy,
eat? But
okay.
it's not crunchy. It's
Okay.
it's soft. Like
Oh,
there's
interesting.
stuff to eat on a chicken's foot.
Interesting.
But anyway,
Oh.
so yeah, and we have a green vegetable. It doesn't grow here. The closest thing to it, I would say, is kale.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
but there's different variations of it. So that would be also a common vegetable that we would eat
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the traditional meal. And a stew. So whether it's a chicken stew or beef stew,
Yeah.
you know, I'm also this person that likes the insides. So like chicken,
Of chicken.
chicken
like the interior part.
intestines.
Oh, but I think in this
beef.
case you would have many similar food also. So I remember when here you have the pig killing kind of tradition,
Mhm.
the zabiacka and so on. There are a lot of interior parts in the
Mhm.
Yaternica or in this kind of foods, and that's normal thing, like very popular, and you can even find it in the canteen
Yeah.
somewhere.
But for me, with pigs, no,
no
I
pig, no.
don't. No. I need the insides of chickens and
But
cows.
chicken as well, yeah. I think here they do something called plunka, that is with the liver or the heart and
Mhm,
the
mhm.
lungs, and you put it in kind of egg, and so
Yeah.
it becomes like a bread thing, but
Okay.
you bake it, and it's quite
Okay.
interesting. So yeah, and how is your Slovak in, like, after 9 years or?
It's functioning. It's
Okay.
functioning. So I would say for day-to-day things, I'm all right. But I can't have a full-blown conversation, especially, let's say, at the doctor's. I would need an English-speaking doctor. You know, if I'm at the bank,
Yeah.
I need English, you know. So when it gets technical, I need help. But day-to-day things, I can order food in Slovak. I can order taxi. I can direct a taxi driver in Slovak.
But like even
You
in
know.
conversation when you are with friends and so on, it's hard.
I have to actively listen. Certain things maybe I can pick up, but I cannot have like a conversation in Slovak. If I'm speaking to someone, like sometimes maybe you have a taxi driver whose English is not so good and they're speaking in Slovak. So the understanding is there. Sometimes I may not always be able to respond, but I'm not completely lost. Let's put it that way. So yeah.
Good. But how many languages do you speak in this case?
2, English and Shona.
And a bit of Slovak.
Well,
So, but in Zimbabwe, do you have English as a main language?
English is the official
It's
language.
the official language, okay.
And then we have 2 national languages, Shona and Ndebele,
Mm-hmm.
or Ndebele. And we have actually 16 official languages. Sign language.
Official, like
sign language being
okay.
one of them as well. So yeah, but
Shona
the
is
main
the most
ones,
popular?
in terms of the local languages, Shona is the most popular, yes. And then Ndebele.
Cool. How does it sound? If you say like "Welcome to my Slovak experience" in Shona, how does it sound?
Oh my word! Now you're asking me things. I honestly wouldn't know how to say that.
Untranslatable.
I wouldn't know how to say that. Give me something else.
No, welcome.
If you say welcome,
You don't welcome.
Tinoku gashirai,
Mhm.
which is like we welcome you. I
Okay.
guess we greet you. I think, yeah. Yeah. Or you actually say titambire. Exactly. Like
Okay.
a direct translation would be like, oh, let us carry your things for you.
Okay.
Or something like that. So yeah, that's what we say for welcome. Titambire.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. It's
Yeah,
a totally
yeah.
different way how to understand reality then, right? It's
Yeah.
like how to that's what I love in languages, that
Yeah.
the new language I learn, the more like you have different words for explaining something that you couldn't explain
Yeah.
before, right? It's still part of the reality, but it's so
It's
very
true.
nice.
And it's when you think sometimes, like the work of a translator or interpreter is really not easy.
Mm.
Because as I said, like to say, welcome, I really had to think about that because there isn't like a direct translation to Shona to say like welcome.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you do now is do you deal also with languages or mostly English?
Sorry, please repeat
Like
that.
your job now, you're dealing with
With English.
so only English mostly.
Yeah.
You don't talk in Shona. And,
No. There are no jobs, at least in corporations here,
That need that language.
need Shona. None that I've come across. So
And how many
maybe a
other-
United Nations, but
How
yeah.
many other folks you know from that speak your language here in Slovakia?
4.
Ah.
We are 4, to my knowledge. We
Cool.
were 3. Now we are 4. One lives in Košice,
Mm-hmm.
actually, and we went to high school together. She was a year younger than me. She's studying medicine there. Yeah. And the other 2 I met here.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's very, very few of us.
So you're winning against the Mongols here, right? That we discussed in one of the previous podcasts. That there were like 20 of them.
Oh, really?
Right?
Yeah, no, I think,
In
the
terms of
Zimbabweans are
numbers.
definitely fewer. So, yeah.
Even if coming from actually similar distance,
Yeah.
right? That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So and how would you? You talk to me a lot about we talk about the food, and you just mention of other African countries and so on. But to me, like that's how I see it, right? I see that Africa perhaps is like one continent, right? And there are folks living there. But I feel that there are so many different countries that there has to be the same kind of distinction and difference and background as it's here in Europe, right? Where you just cross the boundaries and you see landscape that changes, and so I guess that is a similar thing, right?
Yes, it is like that. It is very, very different from north to south, east to west. I haven't been to Western countries, so I can't comment that much on it, but I do have friends from the West. And just when we speak, it's different, from the food to the way we maybe do certain things, to the languages, to how we look as well, so you can tell, I can tell somebody if somebody is from the south, east, west, or north
Of Africa.
of Africa. Yes. I may not be able to pinpoint the exact country, but you can definitely tell. The features are different based on those regions. So it is, it's 52 different countries. It's, my goodness, I'm sure even more than 2,000 languages, right? And Nigeria alone, I think, has like something like, 300 to 500 dialects. Right, so it's very different. It's very different.
But what folks here tell you when they meet you, the first thing they ask, or like how do they connect you with the the word they know. But because usually there is this icebreaker, right? That's I find it always quite interesting. This gives you immediately the idea about what is at least the stereotype in some of the that is not bad, but it's just the shortcut that someone has, right? And for what is for you?
Or sometimes for me, a comment that kind of makes me make this face I just made is, somebody will ask you, where are you from? And I'm like, from Zimbabwe. Like, oh, but your English is so good. I'm like, why shouldn't it be? Also Zimbabwe being a former British colony, Zimbabweans speak English. But again, it comes from not knowing, right? A lack of knowledge. So things like that. Or maybe I will say, like, in honesty, the summers here, I die. I really, it's humid for me. It's
too hot.
It's very hot. And I can say, if I say to somebody that, it's so hot. And they're like, but you're from Africa.
Come on.
You should be used to it. And I'm like, I don't know what kind of, sun protection you think my skin has, or if you think my skin, if the sun deflects off my skin. But
I think it's the opposite, right?
I still feel the heat. I'm less prone to getting sunburnt, but I still feel the heat, right? And just because I'm from Africa, it doesn't mean I don't get hot. It's like saying to a Slovak person or a European person in winter, if they say I'm cold, I'm like, well, you're from Slovakia. You shouldn't be cold.
Yeah.
Right?
Come on, it's normal. Right?
Exactly. It doesn't matter where you're from. Oh, and that's another thing, actually. People think that there's one temperature in the whole of Africa, hot. Like, they just think that is the temperature, hot, But it's not. Of course, in the places, in the countries that are close to the equator, so Nigeria, Gabon, Central African Republic, right there, they don't have winter. Maybe the lowest temperatures are 20, maybe 15 degrees, but 20 degrees. So there it's hot a lot of the times. But I'm pretty sure they still get hot, right? When you go down south, we have winter.
South Africa should be not so hard different than here, right? In terms of it's still like a similar climate, or not?
It is, but also it depends. I mean, for example, like Cape Town is crazy. The weather in Cape Town is not like in Johannesburg. Cape Town, you can experience 4 seasons in one day.
Okay.
I kid you not. One day there was hail, and a couple of hours later the sun was shining. It was like that. So in South Africa, it's actually snowed a few times. So in the south we do have winter. So we also wrapped up scarves, hats, coats, boots. It's not getting extreme as here, of course, but it's still cold. So, yeah.
But now that it's winter here, do you ski as well when it's winter holidays?
I haven't skied yet. Every year I say next year. And then I'm like ready. I'm psyched. I'm like, Mazvi, you're gonna do it. And then I hear some horror story of somebody who just broke an ankle or something. I promise you, every year, this year, I was really like, I'm doing it. I haven't heard any horror stories. 3 weeks ago, I went to the dentist. I was just waiting, outside for my turn.
Yeah, they did the ski on the car.
There's a
right? And then
I wasn't that ready.
Okay.
And there was a guy who walked in with crutches. And he was not sitting too far away from me. Some friends came and they started talking and they asked him, oh, what happened? Oh, I was skiing. I was representing my faculty and I had a skiing accident.
Okay.
And I said, there we go. There's my horror story for 2019. Skiing is not happening.
Hold on. When you learn skiing, you don't go faster than a walking person, right? You just go very slowly. Fishbone and just go down there.
I know.
So don't worry, it's gonna be easy.
I know. I always say I'll be right there with the kids.
And it's super fun.
I don't know. I always thought maybe snowboarding because I've been sandboarding. In Cape Town, I went sandboarding. So exactly the same thing, just different surface. So
the one that you run and then you sandboarding? Like what?
No, sandboarding. Exactly like snowboarding. But you're doing it on sand and not on snow.
But how can you?
Because there's sand dunes.
Yeah, but who's pulling you? Is the
You have to walk up.
so you walk up in the sand hill and then go down?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the walking
But you
back
need
up
a lot
is
of
not
sand
fun.
for it, eh?
And there is a lot of sand.
Yeah,
So
and
there's a
how
specific
tall are
place
these
called
hills?
Atlantis.
Okay.
So obviously it's not like mountains,
Oh,
but
yeah. But still you can
it's
have
very
fun.
high enough. Yeah, it's very high, and you can
Okay.
you can have a lot of fun.
Didn't
So,
know
yeah.
it. I knew, there is this kind of similar to surfing, but you just run on the seashore
Uh-huh.
with there is a little bit of water. I do have aquaplaning, so you can just do it on the seashore with a little surf. But sandbars and
Sandboarding. Well,
boarding
I didn't
and-
know about it until I went. It
Ah,
was actually a
very
friend's
cool.
birthday in Cape Town. So yeah.
And what else you do when you do also other sports here in if you don't ski?
Yeah. I play tennis.
Okay.
Yes, I play tennis. I think I'll stick to that sport. Yeah. I've been playing since I was 8. So yeah, that's my sport. And I used to play field hockey as well, but I don't play that anymore.
No skating. Okay. It's
No.
not so different, or it is? Well, probably.
It is different. I would say maybe ice hockey is closer to indoor hockey
Mm-hmm.
than it is to field hockey. Yeah. I do ice skate. I can ice skate, but never tried ice hockey.
Cool. And how would you describe your, in these years, right? If being in Slovakia, so your Slovak experience, what did you learn by living here? What's how Mazvi is different after this experience?
I think the greatest part of my patience training was here.
Mm.
I would say it's the first time that I've been somewhere where people are very different to me in terms of how they think. Because yes, even though I lived in South Africa, right, as much as we are different, we are more similar than Zimbabweans and Slovaks, let's say. So for me, that was interesting. I learned to be a lot more patient as well with when I was at Dell, I was a trainer. So that wasn't only about Slovaks. I had varying nationalities. I could have somebody from Norway, somebody from Slovakia, somebody from Sweden, somebody from Spain, all in one room. And you have to teach them the same thing. So already you're dealing with the differences in how they approach things in terms of culture, how they approach or learn things as an individual, right? And you have to balance that somehow. So that was really, in terms of, I would say, patience, one thing I really learned there. And again, as I said, dealing with people who are very, very different to the way I think, is to be, I would say, more open and really take the time to understand somebody before, I guess, making a judgment or kind of setting your mind that, okay, this is how they are, or it doesn't make sense, or all of that. So really just kind of taking the time to really understand somebody, their way of thinking, how they see things, and really kind of appreciate the goodness in that rather than focusing on the difference, I would say. Yeah, that's what I would say I learned the most, yeah.
So it's more also human connections at the same time.
Yeah.
That's nice. And from your, knowledge of Slovakia as such, what did you learn about Slovakia?
About Slovakia, I've actually traveled a lot in Slovakia.
Okay.
I've traveled
Because
a
you tell
lot.
that you didn't visit so much the west part, right? But
Of Slovakia?
No, of Europe. But
Of Europe.
Slovakia, yes.
No, I've traveled around Europe a
Okay.
lot. I've traveled around a lot. I mean, I've been to Spain, to Belgium, Germany, Netherlands, Poland, Austria, Hungary, Greece, France, Montenegro.
Cool.
More places, but I can't think right now. So I have traveled a lot. And in Slovakia, I've traveled a lot. I've been to some places that even maybe some Slovaks are like, why? So I was in Modra. I've been to
Modra is cool.
Piesčany, Topolčany, Tesare, Trnava, Kisuce, Slovenský Raj, Levice, Košice. And I'm sure a few other places, but I can't think of now. So I have traveled a lot. When I say I've learned about Slovakia does have an interesting history. And I thought that was pretty cool, actually, that it's St. Martin's Cathedral. Yeah, that was, like a coronation church, so kings and queens used to come and get coronated there. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. So, and I find it interesting as well, the animosity between Slovaks and Hungarians. Sometimes it's like, I wonder, do people maybe of today really, if you ask them, like, why is it that Slovaks and Hungarians don't like each other? Yeah. You can't really get an answer. It's really like a historical hatred that just keeps getting passed on from generation to generation.
Doing this to us, but who is really alive nowadays that experienced that, and who can be blamed for it? Tell me a person, right? Maybe there is one or two guys that were on the top and they were just whatever. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but you probably have similar things everywhere, right? Like in Zimbabwe against Hicks.
It's there. I mean,
city against the other, or not?
Not really, honestly. Of course there are some, things like this, but maybe I don't know if I'm just ignorant to it, but knowing it myself on the levels that I see here, I don't believe it's like that. I mean, in terms of countries, you do. I mean, in South Africa, there was actually quite serious xenophobic attacks. So where they were attacking non-South Africans physically, and quite violently. So, but that was kind of like, it wasn't, I don't know if I was just ignorant to the fact. I don't know if it's something that's always been there, or if it was kind of just like a phase. It started around the times I was at university, which was 10 years ago. So, yeah. So as I said, from when I was growing up, I didn't see it on these levels. So, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's also, the only countries they might know more because they live nearby, those are the ones that you, instead of being friend, you get the opposite, right?
Yeah. You think those are the ones you should be friendlier with, right? Your neighbors.
Or no one, right? Just maybe many people never even went in those countries they don't like, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's probably the issue, right? What you said. I mean, I don't know. I have this idea that many times, a lot of the stupid things of humanity, such as racism, for example, are connected with lack of knowledge.
It's just lack of knowledge. Yeah, we tend to be afraid of what we don't know. So I said it's really when you take the time as well to really know and understand people. And then a lot of the times you're actually like, what was I afraid of? Or what was I spending all this time hating these people for? They're actually pretty cool. So, yeah.
Oh, it's also making it easier to think in groups, right? Those guys there, right? And if those groups have, I don't know, the same color, that's easier because you can group them, right? But, it doesn't make any justice around, right?
Something else I thought of, your question, that what did I find interesting here, was that as much as Slovakia is classified as a Catholic country, right? But moving here is the first time in my life that I have been around so many people who don't believe in God. And that was for me, that was very interesting, and sometimes made me feel a bit lonely, I would say, because I am a Christian. And back home, even in South Africa, it's very rare to find someone who doesn't believe. Everyone, or most people, tend to be Christians.
Okay.
So, talking about God just can come up in everyday conversation. But when I came here, it was really quite different, and those are one of the things, when you read about Slovakia, it's a Catholic country, but when I came, really, it was harder for me to find Christians. There were many non-Christians around. Even a lot of my friends are as well. I even had one friend, I remember at work, he asked me not to say bless you to him. He wanted me to say Nastravie because he wasn't a Christian, and he felt that, I guess, saying bless you, I don't know what that did to him, but yeah, that was very interesting for me as well.
That's interesting because from the discussing with Davy, she said, from Poland, that is considered even more Catholic. She thought she saw more full churches here in Slovakia, right? So that there were more people in the church on Sunday. I mean, coming from Italy, right, the country of the Pope, right?
Yeah.
How come? I definitely can say that if you go in many Italian churches on Sunday, you just see very old people, right?
Yeah.
While here you can see that you have much more younger generation that are following and believing and so on. So it's something like the message is a bit more fresh.
Yeah.
But still, I've never been into your country, so I wouldn't know how more it could be, or how perhaps more fun would be even the rituals and so on. So
yeah, I think also in Slovakia the thing is, as you said, firstly it was when I first came, as I said, it was really still, I would say, the beginning of Slovakia, modernizing, or rather Bratislava modernizing, being more globalized, let's say. So even with churches at that time, it was very hard to find a church that had service in English. So I wasn't necessarily going to church because for me, I'm like, okay, I don't understand. It's in Slovak, so I was looking for a Slovak church. So again, I would say maybe in my day-to-day dealings or where I was going, the friends I had, they were not necessarily believers, or they were believers, but not, I would say, active Christians, right? Because some people, you can be a Christian by title or a Christian by way of life.
okay.
So, because you can have, and that was me as well. I was very much a lukewarm Christian. I always believed in God, but how I used to live my life didn't necessarily reflect that.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I said, so at that time, again, as I said, the people I was around, maybe it was just a matter of not knowing. But now the more I would say I am knowing more within the Christian community here, there are a lot of youth actually that are very on fire for God. As you said that, in Italy, it's a lot of maybe the older people you'll see in church.
Yeah, I think there are significant troubles in even finding priests that are willing to do that.
Yeah.
But it's also because the church didn't really evolve so much in this last year, so it's still kind of I think the evolution of society goes much faster than the church messages.
Yeah.
So there are some moments where even human rights in itself, right, and it's kind of not following completely. So people have to cherry pick, and who instead wants not to cherry pick, and it finds some trouble. So there is a lot of work to do there, but young is. I think where you see more young people believing in something, that's where you see that it can grow. It has a kind of a future, right?
Yeah, and here there really are a lot of youth who really have a fire for God.
And where do you go? Do you go in there is a kind of English community or Slovak community? You have
Well, here the church right now I go to, it's called The Remnant. It's a small church, and it was started by my pastor. He's left now with his family, but he's from Belgium. His wife is from Ghana.
Okay.
And but now there's a lot more English services, or churches that offer English services for quite some years now, quite maybe even 6 years. But in the beginning when I first came, there wasn't. So even the Catholic church opposite Tesco at Kamini Namaste, they have an English service. There's the Lutheran church on Panenska, they have an English service. So there's quite a few options now, which is nice. Yeah.
Yeah, because I imagine that the Slovak rituals, even if perhaps they sound similar, maybe I don't know, but it's hard to really follow, right? If you don't know the language very well.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, for example, I think generally, for example, with Catholic, I was raised a Catholic, and it really doesn't matter where in the world you go. It's the same.
Yeah.
Like the order of the mass is the same. It's just a matter of not necessarily understanding. Because of the language, but for me,
but the songs and so on are similar.
The songs?
Yeah.
Oh, that much I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know because I don't know.
No, that's,
so, yeah.
Interesting. No, it's also interesting because you see how there is a variety as well of the same religion in different countries, right? So I had my Italian background, that obviously it's generally a Catholic country, right? And then following up in getting in Slovakia, I saw that there is a different, it's a bit different as well, the rituals in itself. So the mass as such is much more singing, right, than praying or saying, right? And in this it's much more choral, so that people tend to sing more, even normal people. That's instead of having just the choir that is doing it for you. So and I found this difference quite interesting as well. Right? I studied music, and I always there were always this conversation that if you have a choral tradition, right, even regardless for what is the background, can be religious, but kids then have better attitude to play music or to hear or to sing the right song, and so because you start from the beginning. If you're not used to sing so much, then it's different, right? So that was cool. Cool, very nice. So you can at the same time you can live here, practice, work. So is it home for you, Slovakia now, or?
It has become my second home, I would say. It has. It's besides Zimbabwe, it's now the place that I've lived the longest. I left Zimbabwe when I was 18. I was in South Africa for 4 years, and then now I've been here 9 years. So it does feel like home. Whether it's my forever place.
Where are you going?
I don't know. Still waiting on God to help me out with that one. But right now this is where I am, and we'll see. But I do see my forever place back home in Zimbabwe or in an African country. But I don't know. We'll see.
What would be more in an African country if without the family and friends, right? But is there anything else that would be more cozy, more interesting for you to live there than here, right? Something that you're missing?
It's the general vibe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not really something I could say me personally can put my finger on it, but it's different.
Yeah.
The vibe is different, and the food. I love the food. So yeah.
So if we manage one day to bring like a kind of portal, like a warp, you just can send a avocado or whatever, and immediately comes, then it would change as well, right? You can transfer super quickly everything.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And so when you're family and friends are coming here to visit, what do you do with them? Where do you take them?
Well, in Bratislava, I always take them to Jevin Castle. For me, that's more of a better site as opposed to Bratislava Castle. I do take them there as well, but we start with Jevin. I take them to Slavin. And those are about the sites I take them to, right? Maybe the Blue Church.
What was their impression? Like, wow, cool, or better home, or what's the...
It's different. I would say a lot of my friends or family who have come to see me here, this is not their first European country.
Okay, yeah.
So for a lot of them, it's just more interesting. That it's more of a, okay, so this is Slovakia, okay, So it's not really like a wow or like a, oh my gosh. It's not that. It's just it's a new place. It's different. So yeah.
What are the good things of Slovakia then? If you have value proposition of Slovakia, what are the benefits of living here for you?
Benefits, it's a good. Honestly, here I say I have a good quality of life. Really, I do. I like where it's located geographically. It's you have Vienna just there, Hungary just there, Budapest just there. And Prague is not far, and even just generally when you're wanting to fly anywhere. But the main thing for me, as much as a country, it's all right. I've just managed to make really, really great friends here. And I think that's also a very, very important thing, because you can be in the best place in the world, but if you don't have a good community around you, it's pointless, So I've had, as I said, really great friends. I've had good jobs I've enjoyed as well. So, yeah.
Very cool. And so if you would change something from this experience, or like about Slovakia, what would you... let's get rid of the customer service, because I know that this is significant improvement.
That's exactly what was going to come up. So yeah,
but I know that's something to be improved. But is there anything else you would change?
Well, yes, actually, I would change quite a few things about the foreign police.
Okay.
Yes. Firstly, I would like there to be consistency in the information that they provide. Maybe it's better now. I don't know. I haven't had to go there for a very long time, so not complaining. But, maybe you can phone and ask, okay, what documents are needed for ABCD. They'll tell you, bring XYZ. You go there, and then someone will tell you, oh, well, P and Q are also missing. And it's like, but when I called, nobody told me that P and Q were needed, just XYZ, And that's after waiting 5 hours in the queue, only to be told, sorry, you don't have everything you need. Come back tomorrow. So that's one thing. Secondly, the communication, because I went, and I can tell you, I never go to the foreign police without doing a solid prayer. I kid you not. I do not go to that place without praying. I'm like, Jesus, please go before me. Make the rough places smooth. Just, pave the way for me. I just pray that I meet somebody who is helpful, who is kind, and who's just really trying to do their job and just help me out. I'm not kidding, because honestly, that place, I've really seen people just have the worst luck there. And at the end of the day, it's just about which officer do you end up with. Because some really are helpful and will want to do their best, to make sure that you haven't made that trip for nothing. And some do not even care. They do not care. There was one girl, I went there. same time that I was there. She went in and she was leaving Slovakia, so she wanted to like inform them. And they said she has to write it down in Slovak. She didn't speak Slovak, right? So she was sent out and, you know, I said to her, just ask. Because here for sure there's somebody who speaks Slovak, maybe somebody from Ukraine or Russia, you know, and so that they can help you. I went in not long after her, and the officer that I went to, you know, she says to me, you know, why don't you speak Slovak? And I said, well, you know what? I said, fair question. I've been here 7 years. Yes, I should be able to speak Slovak. But what about the person who arrived yesterday? You know, what about them? Oh, they must come with a translator. You know, she says our boss even said to us that we don't have to speak in English. You know, if they don't know Slovak, they come with a translator. Otherwise, we can tell them to go. Right? And then she says to me, if I would come to Zimbabwe, would they speak to me in Slovak? I said, no, but they'll speak to you in a world language, English. They would not speak to you in our own local languages, right? They're not going to speak to you in Shona and expect you to know. They would speak to you in English. Then I don't remember what she said, and I was like to her, well, I hope you're feeling kind today and that you'll be willing to help me in English. And she said yes. By the end of it, she was telling me about her vacation, where she was going to next, and everything was, we were besties by the end of that. But next to me was a man, he was actually from Italy, and he was also leaving. And the officer's telling him, okay, he needs to write this in Slovak, like what happened to the girl just a few minutes before. And that officer then wrote it for the man in Slovak and helped him out. So again, I said it's luck of the draw, because a girl just before I went in had the same request. They sent her out to go and figure it out herself, how to write it in Slovak. But now this man who was next to me, same request, they helped her. You know, so again, consistency in the service, consistency in the information.
Was something related to I don't know, the sex of this person, or like man?
It was a man and a man, actually.
Two men then, okay.
Yeah, man to man. So who helped? I don't know who helped the girl
so
before.
Somebody wants to help and someone else not.
Yeah. So that is something I would change, you know, because for me it's actually the first impression that a foreigner has of the country. That really is your first kind of real experience with Slovakia.
How the state works and deals with.
You know, and I think 99.9% of the people after leaving there, they're like, why did I come here? Like, I might have been better off just staying in my own country.
Or like some guest of my Slovak experience said, Slovakia is great if we don't consider the foreign police.
You know, so that is something I would change. I mean, I've heard that it's better.
Oh yeah.
You know, I definitely, the times I've gone, it's improved. For me, it can be the smallest thing, but I'm like, progress is progress. As long as we are moving in the right direction of making things better. So
I think it's also, I mean, I have this impression that sometimes it's very connected with, one is availability of policemen that are speaking also English, right? That is perhaps harder to find and hire. Like that maybe, so you would need to change a bit the hiring rate. But it's also connected with the political scene, right? So if politics goes more onto nationalism and you know, Slovakness or whatever, it's hard to justify openness towards foreigners.
That's true.
And because it would be like a PR agency, like you come here, I tell you, I help you, I come inside, I just, you know, advise you where to go, what is the card, and so on. Instead, no, just you need to speak Slovak, feel this, go away, and so maybe we have less problems with that, right? But it's still a sad thing. Yeah, I know. I would love to. You know, I'm working in a private company as well, right? I know that there are in any environment there are humans, so nothing is always perfect. But when you start getting, a lot of people that are queuing for hours, you do a kind of, evaluation of the situation, and you provide more resources where you need, because that's the service you're providing. So you just keep normally improving. It's such a logical thing that is so weird.
And in winter, it's not fun standing in that queue. It really isn't.
No, that's true. That's true.
So, yeah. Cool.
What else? It's a lot of things are interesting about you, I think. Like, I met several folks from Africa in my past as well. I studied in France for a while, and there were a lot of people, that they were coming from the former French colonies, so that naturally they speak French, and so they decided to study there. And it was always so fascinating for me, the difference of the world, right, in terms of basic cultural background and family and so on. I think difference in some areas, but the same in many others, right? And I like this different spices in it, because it gave me also different purpose of my day as well, on how to interpret, on how friendship and so goes on. So how is it with you for how you interpret perhaps how Slovak deal with friends or family or women and so on?
With family, I would say there's maybe two sides to it. That was something also I was like, this is different. How almost every weekend Slovaks travel back home to their parents.
That's why Friday is always queue in the highway.
Every weekend. For me, that was just a bit like, okay. But every weekend? I mean, I love my parents, but, every weekend, like, they will make the journey to wherever their hometown is. So that was interesting. But at the same time, I don't... How can I put it? For us, when we talk about family as Zimbabweans, I could maybe generalize and say as Africans, it's not just about my mom, my dad, my sisters. It's my cousins, it's my aunts, it's my uncles. We even look at our cousins as our sisters and brothers. We don't necessarily put this like label of cousin and already look at them as extended family. We all spend a lot of time together. Like, I really grew up with my cousins, whether we're going to their house or they coming to our house, and we don't have the concept of old age homes. Of course, they are there, but you wouldn't really find maybe many or black older people or senior people in these old age homes, because we take care of our own, right? So whether it would be, a granddaughter, of course, who's grown, or, I don't know, an aunt or a cousin, there's always somebody to look after our elderly. So we do it ourselves. We won't take them to a home.
Okay.
So yeah, that's something that's different, I would say.
So you mainly live in the family house as well, so to be more
not
close?
Necessarily, because again, adjustments can then be made when someone now is older and needs help. So for example, like one of my aunts, one of my dad's sisters, she lived with her husband, right? They in their own home in a different city, and my aunt is not doing so well. Right, she has dementia, so she's now living with her oldest daughter and her husband.
Okay.
Right, so with her daughter and her son-in-law. So she's now moved there, and they're taking care of her. So like that, and then maybe they change with her younger sister, with my cousin's younger sister. So majority of the time, my aunt stays with her oldest daughter, but then maybe for a week, she will go to her second oldest daughter.
No, but basically here you see that mostly folks are connected with the nearby relatives and...
Oh, yeah, where you're living across the street from your in-laws.
Yeah.
Yes, no, we don't do that. No.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, that's as much as we love each other. I think it's personally, I don't think it's the best idea to be living like next door to your in-laws. I think it's then difficult to set boundaries. That's just my personal opinion. I wouldn't like that. Yeah. Same city, no problem, but not next door neighbors.
Not next door neighbor.
Yeah.
And how often do you see your family now?
Depending, I have 2 sisters in America, one just outside London,
Scattered.
one in Poland that I'm actually going to see tomorrow, and the rest are back home. I travel home once a year. Once a year I go home. So I'm going in March. I was there in September last year and in March. So my family in Zimbabwe once a year. In America, once every 2 years to once a year. And yeah, my sister in Poland, it just depends. So yeah.
So from time to time you have this opportunity to have big gatherings.
At home, yeah. At home. We do.
Cool. What about the maybe I would like to know, so the living here, right, is connected as well with information, so news, politics, and so on. So are you informed about what is happening in Slovakia, or?
I am. I wouldn't say in terms of the politics, not so much. I mean, if you were to ask me, who's running for this position or so and so for presidency, that much I can't tell you. But in terms of, I'd say, the day-to-day things that, really affect the people directly, then yes, I am aware of those things. I mean, for example, today there's like a protest in memory of the journalist who got murdered, so things like that I am up to date with. But in terms of really the political
and what's
scene,
your source in this case? You read the newspapers or?
People, social media, right? Or Slovak Spectator I read, the only English
that you can read
newspaper that we have here. So I do read the Slovak Spectator, yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's actually useful to have an option to, if you're not Slovak speaker, right, to get a lot of information in English. Yeah, that's true.
Because it's important, I mean, to keep up with it. It's where I'm living and what's around me.
And for me, it's even harder. I mean, when I can understand Slovak, but to me, it looks a bit harder than written in a newspaper than the spoken one. I had this kind of thing.
Really?
I don't know.
It depends maybe on how complicated the text is. It depends. It depends, yeah. When I worked for the Chamber of Commerce, then I was very in the know of the political situation because we were dealing with, with that side of the world. So, yeah.
Cool. And you, you read the news, you get informed. And the home news as well is something that you're up to it, or you don't care about what's happening in Africa?
Oh, I definitely care, but it's about my source.
Yeah.
So when it comes to news back home, I speak to the people.
Okay.
Because I don't trust Western media. That's just the truth. I don't, because at the end of the day, for me, news is always coming from somebody's perspective, which is not necessarily the truth. So, and already there's a bias to non-Western countries, should I say. So whenever something is happening, I don't believe right away what I read on BBC or what I read on CNN. I speak to the people at home.
But they should there are always some trusted professional behind some of the main news providers, let's say, like from newspapers and so on, BBC. potentially should be trusted compared to the blogger, because there are guys that they do that for living, they have an ethical code, they have a career behind, and so on, right?
Yeah, as you said, should be trusted. But for me, the best source are the people who are there and who are in it.
Mm-hmm. So who live the environment. And
who live there, yes. Because even sometimes, just because someone's a Zimbabwean, but maybe they live in Germany, I am not necessarily going to take their word for it, because at the end of it, you live in Germany.
Yeah.
You don't live there. You're not where it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So even when there was this, what they were calling the non-coup, when Mugabe was pushed out from the presidency, and when you're hearing on social media or on BBC and CNN, it was made to seem like there was a civil war happening. And when I spoke to people at home, it's like, I've just come from the gym. I've just, taken my kids to school.
Yeah.
Or it was like normal daily living. Of course, not necessarily in maybe every part of the city. I'm sure in some parts of the city there was, some violence happening, or, people being beaten. That's, again, as I said, it's not like it was all completely not true. But again, a lot of the times things are exaggerated or made to seem more than they actually are.
So, exaggerated, it's a point of view, right? So,
Yeah.
and the point of view is also connected with the happening, right? So you don't see what is behind the happening, and people still have to keep living. They don't stop just because something is happening, or even if in their city.
Exactly.
What I usually do when there is a happening, right? I also tendentially not immediately trust the only source, right? But I tendentially trust that there are some main media channels that are more ethically oriented, that they are, New York Times or BBC, and for example, are two of the main that, they are an institution, right? And they are defending what is the media doing, that is, making sure that democracy goes on. And in a company, you have business that gives you the control, right? If you're not selling well, then you're out. But in the public sector, you don't have other control. People cannot know so much about what is happening in some areas. You need someone to do it. So that's where, and better institution, because behind there is, a culture, there are some values, there is ethical code, and not trusted media. But from the other side, I usually try to read more of the same thing in different areas, right? For example, let's check the BBC, then you check the New York Times, then you check another one. Maybe perhaps check also the opposite, who is maybe against, to really, and this takes time, so you cannot do it with every single news. But that would be in the moment where one news is very important to you. I usually tendentially try to compare, and you will see that behind the point of views there might be some better information coming in.
It's
But
true.
critically comparing is important, because,
It is the smart thing to
That's
do,
all.
and a lot of us don't take the time, to do it. Because even as I said, when I ask people back home, I ask different groups of people, different classes of people, because you can't just ask one group, because their situation is not the same as somebody else. So I really tried, as I said, to ask different groups and different classes of people of what is really going on. Is this true, what you see in the news? Because at the end of the day, it also depends on where do you live. Do you live on the better side of town or the not so great side of town? Because that really will determine how much or how little of the current happening is affecting you directly, But as you said, for me, what frustrates me is when I have somebody, or I'll give you a scenario that happened. I was in Vienna, and there was, I don't remember what the conversation was exactly, but it was a guy from Austria who now started telling me things about Zimbabwe, right, which were not necessarily accurate.
Okay.
But he was convinced that was the truth, because he read it on BBC.
Okay.
Or heard it on BBC, right? So I said to him, okay, have you ever even been to Zimbabwe?
Okay.
No. So how can you argue with me, a Zimbabwean, about this? I don't remember what exactly it was, but that for me sometimes is so frustrating, because you will have people who, as I said, depending on where they read it or where they heard it, and that becomes the absolute truth. And I'm like, but how can you really kind of then tell somebody who's from that place and you've never even been there that is the truth of where they come from?
Brain is important to have, and the critical thinking as well. And that's where I started, right? The responsibility from your side as well is to open up a door where we perhaps don't know. And, thanks to talking with people, daring to ask, daring to share is the best way to learn.
It is. And I'm always happy. I actually, Katya, who was one of your...
That called you here, actually, so it's her responsibility.
Yes. I don't know what conversation we were having once, because we used to live together.
Yeah.
And I don't know what she asked me. And I said, you know what? Why don't you come and see for yourself?
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, okay. And honestly, I didn't take her seriously. And next thing, she went and told another friend of ours that she's going to Zimbabwe with me. And the friend was like, oh, can I come too? And I was like, okay. I ended up going with 4 of them.
Oh, cool.
And they even bought their plane tickets before I bought mine. But honestly, I said the best way is to come and see for yourself. Because maybe you'll think that I'm being biased because it's my country, or I've got blinders on and I don't want to see the truth of the situation, or whatever it is. I'm like, come and see for yourself. Then you can actually make an educated and informed opinion as to this place called Zimbabwe.
Oh, yeah.
And they loved it. They loved it, and in 2016, I went with another 2 friends, a Slovak and an American, and it was a great trip. So, yeah, it's always best to go see yourself. Of course, we can't always, not all of us can manage it, but when you get the chance, it's always good to go and see a new place for yourself.
And at the same time, when you are in Slovakia, right, you share about Zimbabwe. When you're in Zimbabwe, you actually share about Slovakia. You're the first one to talk about it, so you can be promoter of both in different areas. Cool. So for the folks that see what is cool about Zimbabwe, where we should all go and see it with our eyes.
Yes. Well, we have one of the 7 wonders of the world. We have Victoria Falls, which we share with Zambia actually, but I think majority of it is on the Zimbabwe side. We have a lot of beautiful wildlife, a lot of great nature, right? So you can see the Big 5 in Zim. And, Zimbabweans are really very friendly, happy people. It's really a nice atmosphere, fantastic food. So, yeah, I think it would be a great experience. I always tell people, just with Africa in general, especially the South, I'm being a bit biased, that don't go there until you're ready to never leave.
Okay.
Because you will love it so much, really, and it'll be very difficult to leave.
But 9 years in Slovakia is also connected a bit with Slovakia, right? You come to Slovakia.
It's, as I said, not to what's the word? It's not that I don't like Slovakia.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm that person that I have the 80-20 rule, right? I need to be 80, as long as I'm 80% happy, then that's all that matters to me. Yeah. So again, it's not necessarily, I didn't choose the country. For me right now, it's about the job, right? And the people around me. So as long as I'm happy with those things, there's no reason for me to just be like, okay, why don't I just move to Germany and see what's there?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So as I said, it is a lovely country. It's now become my second home, but it does not compare to Zimbabwe. It doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can imagine. And, it's always, the home where we were born, right? And it's part of us as well, right? A piece of the puzzle that without it you wouldn't be able to see the whole picture.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Well, Mazvi, thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else we should share or about your experience?
Oh, I think we've shared a lot.
Oh, yeah.
We've given
there
the
is always
people
this
a
question
lot.
for me, right? If there is anything you would like to share, that's also the space.
Yeah, well, nothing that comes to mind right now. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. It was being very interesting conversation.
Thank you. I enjoyed it too.
Thank you everyone for listening to my Slovak experience. See you at the next interview. Till then, have fun, share and enjoy. So, did you like my Slovak Experience podcast? If yes, you can share it with your friends and peers. They can listen it from many sources, such as iTunes, Stitcher, Tuning Radio, or Spotify. And now you can also watch us on video while we are recording on YouTube. Thank you.